Nintendo, Kyoto, Japan, 1889. A man with one idea tries to create joy in a world that barely knew what entertainment meant. His name is Fusajiro Yamauchi, although history rarely remembers him for long. Card games were simple. Survival wasn't. Yet this small shop will eventually become responsible for defining childhoods. But first, a question. How does a humble card shop turn into a global giant? Then nearly collapse, then become, well, the Nintendo. The answer begins with the man who inherits the empire. A man whose story doesn't start with success, but with pressure. When Fusajiro steps aside, the company falls into the hands of his grandson, Hiroshi Yamauchi, a young man thrown into leadership before he's ready. He enters the office wearing a suit 2 sizes too big, yet expectations heavier than the building he walks into. Nintendo is old-fashioned, barely surviving, and dangerously close to fading into irrelevance. Therefore, Hiroshi tries everything: taxis, instant rice, even a love hotel business, hoping something would work. But every idea collapses. Investors whisper, employees doubt him. Nintendo's identity cracks. How do you rebuild a company when nothing succeeds? Hiroshi's answer: you don't rebuild, you reinvent. And his reinvention begins with a quiet, almost invisible hire. A young, reserved engineer named Gunpei Yokoi. Gunpei's job at Nintendo is simple: maintain the factory machines. But one afternoon, Hiroshi finds him tinkering with a small, extendable toy. A distraction, yet a spark. That toy becomes the Ultra Hand, selling over 1 million units. For the first time, Nintendo breathes. It was a huge commercial success, selling over 1 million units and saving the company from financial trouble. However, Gunpei isn't done. He will eventually create something that saves Nintendo not once, but twice. First with the Game & Watch, a handheld device built from leftover calculator parts. Children swarm toy stores. Therefore, Nintendo sees a future outside playing cards. But a storm brews quietly. Competition rises. Arcades explode. Nintendo needs something bigger, something unforgettable. That's when a young artist named Shigeru Miyamoto enters the plot. He walks into the Nintendo building. Shy, soft-spoken, carrying sketches nobody asked him to make. Hiroshi sees potential. Gunpei sees imagination. Miyamoto sees worlds waiting to escape his mind. His first breakthrough arrives under pressure. Nintendo needs a hit arcade game to survive the failure of Radarscope, a project that almost bankrupts them. Miyamoto sketches a carpenter trapped between ladders, barrels, and a giant creature. A strange concept at the time. Yet once again, Nintendo bets everything. The result? The iconic game, Donkey Kong. Arcades fill with cheers, coins overflow. Nintendo survives because one young artist dared to draw something different. This is just simply inspirational. But the carpenter's name, Jumpman, evolves into a face plastered across generations. I think you might recognize those eyes, because this was the introduction of Mario. Ironically, he wasn't meant to be a mascot. He becomes one out of necessity. Crisis often shapes legends. But by the early 1980s, video games are collapsing. Stores toss unsold cartridges into dumpsters. Parents lose trust. The industry rots. Bringing a console to America sounds laughable. Yet Hiroshi believes failure can be outrun, if the idea is strong enough. So Nintendo designs the Famicom, later renamed the NES. But here's the twist. They don't market it as a console. They disguise it as a toy with a robot, ROB. Not because kids wanted one, but because retailers refused to sell video games. The NES enters America quietly, maybe too quietly. Therefore, success doesn't slam the door open. It slips through the cracks of a broken industry. Mario launches alongside Duck Hunt, then The Legend of Zelda, then Metroid. Each title a question to the player. What if games could feel like worlds? Nintendo doesn't just revive gaming, they dominate it. Then the Super Nintendo, or better known as the SNES, arrives. It had Mode 7 graphics, color, depth. But companies like Sega had different plans than Nintendo. Instead of competing with better products, they tried to get rid of the competition instead by launching one of the most aggressive marketing assaults the gaming world had ever seen. Their message echoed across TV screens and magazine covers like a declaration of war. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Sega wanted gamers to feel embarrassed owning a Nintendo. For the first time, Nintendo wasn't just being challenged, they were being hunted, and Sega wanted the world to watch. Therefore, Nintendo pushes harder. Better games, bigger worlds. But behind the scenes, a decision alters history. Nintendo backs out of a contract with a partner building a CD add-on for the SNES. That partner? Sony. The canceled deal doesn't just hurt a relationship, they end up creating the PlayStation later. Irony at its finest. Nintendo chooses cartridges for the Nintendo 64, faster, reliable, restrictive. Developers leave for Sony's cheaper CDs. Even Final Fantasy migrates, shocking the industry. Yet the Nintendo 64 still births masterpieces. Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye. Games that didn't just succeed, they defined 3D gaming. But commercially, Nintendo slips. Sony rises. A power shift begins. While home consoles wage war, Gunpei Yokoi returns with another idea. A simple, durable handheld powered by basic batteries. Competitors laugh. Then Game Boy launches with Tetris. The world becomes addicted. Children play in the back seat. Parents play on the train. Even soldiers in war zones keep them in their pockets. Everything seemed perfect for Nintendo. Yet tragedy shadows the triumph. Gunpei Yokoi leaves Nintendo. Months later, he dies in a car accident. A man who saved Nintendo twice disappears from the world, leaving behind a legacy the company would stand on for decades. This man gave the world the Nintendo that we love today, as well as many iconic characters that will carry his legacy on forever. Nintendo still needed to compete and stand out, so Nintendo ended up introducing the GameCube to the world. It is colorful, powerful, unique, but Sony dominates with the PS2. Microsoft enters with the Xbox. Nintendo struggles. Still, unforgettable games emerge. Wind Waker, Melee, Metroid Prime, Luigi's Mansion. Quality is undeniable. Sales aren't. The company needs a miracle, or at least one impossible idea. Nintendo realizes something. They can't win the horsepower war. So they ask a different question. What if games weren't for gamers? What if games were for everyone? Motion controls, wireless simplicity, a console made for families, grandparents, hospitals, schools. The Wii launches. It doesn't just succeed, it becomes a cultural phenomenon. But success carries weight. Expectations balloon. The world watches to see what comes next. The Wii U confusing marketing, weak support, a controller few understood. The Wii U collapses, sales plummet, developers abandon ship. For the first time in decades, people ask, can Nintendo survive another failure? Pressure rises, stock drops, faith is disappearing. Yet this is where the story becomes a movie, because Nintendo's darkest point plants the seeds of a comeback no one expects. The idea sounds wild, a hybrid console, portable yet powerful, casual yet core gamer friendly. Skepticism builds. Memories of the Wii U haunt every meeting room. But Nintendo does what they do best. They took the risk and launched a revolutionary gaming console called the Nintendo Switch. The Switch launches with a legend reborn, Breath of the Wild. Sales explode. Nintendo rises from the ashes of its past mistakes. The failures of yesterday become the lessons of tomorrow. For the first time in decades, Nintendo doesn't follow the industry. The industry follows Nintendo. Use this story as fuel for your own dreams, and just remember this quote right here. The greatest mistake is not the one made while trying, but the one made by never trying at all.